everybody. In this video, well, first of all, welcome to Salgo MMA, the best in-depth analysis for MMA you can find on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like and hit that subscribe button and comment for your input. I love to see it. In this video, we're going to be talking about UFC 291. What went down in UFC 291 and, breaking it down for you guys as best as I can. So, obviously, the main card for UFC 291 was amazing. It was one of the best main cards, honestly, I've seen in a while, man. I mean, we got to see such good fights. Starting with, honestly, I'm very disappointed in one way because some of the fights on that card, the matchups, the thing that was great about the card was the matchups. Obviously, Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland was a great matchup, but that fight was probably one of the worst fights I've ever seen in terms of the performance of Michael Chiesa, man. Like, it was, Chiesa hasn't fought in a while. He hasn't fought since, 22. So, in a year, he hasn't fought. And that fight for me was just the performance. He looked, honestly, that fight, the Chiesa versus Holland was probably worse than CM Punk, against Mike Jackson. I mean, obviously, those two fighters are, obviously, moon and sun different in terms of skill level. But, bro, Chiesa, the way he performed against Kevin Holland was one of the worst performances I've seen ever. I don't know what Chiesa's game plan was. Was he trying to go for that takedown? Was he trying to, go on the ground? Or was he just desperate that he was getting lit up on the feet by Kevin Holland and wanted to just take the fight to the ground? But it's not about him just taking the fight to the ground. I get that. His attempt at trying, the way he was trying to get Kevin Holland on the ground, the technique was so poor. Watching that was one of the worst things. The technique in that fight was so basic. It was ridiculous. I thought it was honestly the worst performance I've ever seen. I don't know what Chiesa was trying to do. What was he trying to do in that fight? What was Michael Chiesa trying to accomplish? Oh my God, it was so bad. So yeah, that fight was horrible. For the most important fight that I wanted to see, and I think every MMA fan wanted to see, the most important fight on that card was Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Now, Tony Ferguson got submitted by Bobby Green in the third round. And, a lot of the question on Twitter right now is, should Tony Ferguson hang up the gloves? Should he retire after that performance? That's what I thought. I thought Tony Ferguson was going to retire. I mean, listen, Tony Ferguson, I talked about it in the preview. Tony Ferguson has lost his last 4 fights. Losing like that against Justin Gaethje. Losing devastatingly against Beneil Dariush. I mean, Tony Ferguson has been getting finished his past recent fights. And I thought, to be honest, in the preview, and I said this in the preview, I said, if he doesn't go out and smoke Bobby Green in 2 rounds, if he doesn't go out and just light him up on the feet, Ferguson should just say, I'm going to retire, even though he won. But even Ferguson losing, when he lost that fight, I was like, yo, bro, just in the post-fight, just say your retirement speech. Just say I'm hanging up the gloves and be like, I'm done with this sport. Because Tony Ferguson, the Tony Ferguson that we knew is gone. He's not there anymore. I mean, he looked so slow against Bobby Green. The way he was moving was slow. That body roll takedown that he does was super slow. He looked like a 50-year-old man in there. Physically, he looked like he was 50 to 60 years old. A 60-year-old old man that, his reactions were just slow. Everything about when he was throwing the punches was slow. It was disgusting to watch. But I think, in my opinion, the main argument is, should Tony Ferguson retire? And yes, I think Tony Ferguson should retire because we don't know if Tony Ferguson, if he comes out and he fights like that horrible, where his reactions are super slow, everything is just weak. I think, yes, he should hang up the gloves because after that is CTE. As you guys know, moving like that is a bad sign for a guy he's 39 years old, man. He's fucking 39 years old. He's probably one of the oldest fighters the lightweight division's ever seen. But he's 39 years old, but physically in there, he's like 60, 70 years old. I mean, bro, when you're throwing that slow, you can't even hurt a fly. And he thought he was going to go out there and hurt Bobby Green, somebody who, at this point, he's a veteran in the UFC. He's fought, for a while. And he thought he was going to go out there and hurt him. I mean, that was just shocking to watch. So, yeah, Ferguson should, in my opinion, Tony Ferguson should just call it, man. He's nowhere as good as he was before, the Ferguson that we all knew and loved. He's not that anymore, man. He's not. Yeah, I liked the fight. Obviously, on that card as well was the co-main event was Alex Pereira versus Jan Blachowicz. I really liked that fight. I actually enjoyed that fight. I think, Alex Pereira is I think he's, the elite fighter that everybody, kind of assumes that he is. Yeah, I think he is, that fighter that, he's elite and, beating Jan Blachowicz by decision. He just seems like he's going to own that middleweight division. If Adesanya does step down, I think he's going to own that division. It was a really good fight. I enjoyed the performances for Alex Pereira. I really enjoyed that. And he should be back, and I think he should go back and get that title. Now let's talk about the main event. Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje for a BMF title, and obviously you guys saw, Justin Gaethje got that head kick KO. I think the whole BMF thing, man, is just so stupid to me. Obviously, Nate Diaz won the BMF belt, against Jorge Masvidal, but bro, it's just such a gimmicky title, man. Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, these guys are elite level fighters. These guys are top of the weight class. These guys are championship fighters. Why would you give them a gimmicky belt that only journeymen get? I just don't understand, bro. These guys obviously have shown that they can beat top, obviously Islam being the champion in that weight class. Islam being the champion in that weight class and Oliveira being number 2. These guys can both beat Oliveira and they have the potential to beat Islam. So these guys are the best. Why would you give them the BMF belt right there when they could get a UFC title? Both of these gentlemen can get UFC title, but that is what I think of UFC 291, guys. If you guys, that was my kind of recap and review for it. If you guys enjoy more in-depth analysis like this, make sure to like, of course, and I'm more coming to the channel for the best in-depth analysis. Subscribe to Saga MMA, and thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.